There are a number of questions that I typically get when I have a buyer consultation, and I feel like a lot of things are things that may not get addressed if you do not actually have a buyer consultation. So, what are real estate agents maybe not talking to you about or not addressing, and what is missing, what's slipping through the cracks? So, first, of course, I will talk about commission. So, everybody has questions about commission. Commission was in the spotlight last year. Real estate commissions, buyers, who's paying, sellers, what's happening, should anybody be paying commission, etc. So, how do agent commissions really work? So, here in Massachusetts, typically the seller does pay the real estate agent's commission. Now, how does it work? So, the seller and the listing agent are going to meet. They have a meeting, they have a consultation, they talk about the property, they agree to terms. And what the seller is agreeing to is number one, to list the property with this person, with this agent. They're agreeing to the listing agent's compensation. So, is the listing agent going to be getting 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, 5, whatever the case is? What is the seller paying the listing agent? So, that's what they're agreeing to. And then they are also agreeing to whether or not the seller will pay for a buyer's agent compensation. So, it's another form for Massachusetts. Where the seller will agree, yes, I will pay buyer agent compensation, or no, I will not pay buyer agent compensation. And then on the MLS, so the seller and the listing agent agree to that. The listing agent is then going to list the property on the MLS. And on the MLS, they can either put on their buyer compensation is offered, but it is not public. We are not making it public. Or they can actually put the percentage in still on the MLS for Massachusetts. Or you can just leave it blank. You don't have to put anything at all. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So, what happens with the buyer agent compensation? So, that's all on the listing side. For buyers, you should be having a buyer consultation with your real estate agent. So I like to sit down, meet my buyers, and go through a whole process, talk to them about the home buying process, talk to them about commission, talk to them about the forms that they're going to need to sign, etc., how to write an offer, all of that. So I cover all of that in my buyer consultation. Sometimes it may not be possible to have a buyer consultation. You may be meeting your agent for the first time at a property, and that's when you'll kind of discuss all of these items. So, buyers, when you meet with your buyer agent in Massachusetts, you need to sign an agreement with your buyer's agent, agreeing to a compensation. You're agreeing to let that person be your agent. You're going to agree to a term, like a length of term. How long is this person going to be your agent for? And then you're going to lay out compensation as well. So that compensation again could be 1%, 2%, 3%, 4%, whatever it is that you and your agent discuss. So there are two forms that a buyer has to sign. One, they have to sign a form that states that they understand that commissions are negotiable, they are not regulated by law, they are not regulated by a broker or anybody like that. It is not fixed price. Commissions are negotiable. So that's the first form that we sign. The second form locks in like as my if it's me and my buyer, it locks in my fiduciary duties to my buyer as their real estate agent. It locks in what am I going to do as their buyer's agent, and it discusses and lays out the commission. So it will lay out how much commission is going to be paid. Now, that is kind of those are like the forms that we're signing, right? When you start to search for homes, your agent can discuss with the listing agent how much commission is being offered by the seller. Or what seems to be more common practice is when you find the home that you love, the buyer's agent is just simply writing in the commission into the offer. So if you are signing, say, for example, I recently signed an agreement for 2.5% with a client, and we went and we put in the offer. The property was listed at 410. We offered 399 with 2.5% going to the buyer agent commission. The seller came back and they said, we'll do 400,000 with 2% to the buyer's agent. So what we did was we increased the price to 402. We offered 402,000 with 2.5% to the buyer's agent. So we calculated the difference of the commission and we added that on to the offer price. That was a difference of about $12 to $15 per month for my client in their mortgage, in their 30-year mortgage. So that's really kind of how the commissions are working right now, what people are doing. It's happened a number of times on my listings as well, where the agent commission, you'll increase the offer for the buyer to cover that commission so that the seller is netting. Because what's important to a seller is how much they're netting. How much are they walking away with? They have a number in their mind that they want to walk away with. So what can we do to get to that point? That's really what we're what everybody's trying to figure out is what offer is going to win it and how is everybody going to win in this scenario, buyer, seller, agents, etc. So that's how commissions are working currently. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions at all, be as transparent as possible, and answer everything that I can. So that's where we're at with commissions and agent commissions. Another thing, do agents influence prices for better or for worse? So agents are asked a number of times. I am constantly asked by my clients, especially my buyers, what should I offer on this house? What do you think this house is worth? What do I need to offer? Agents cannot tell you a price. We cannot say, I think you should offer $500,000 and that's going to win this house for you. I can't tell you that because if you win it, then you could be upset that you've won the property and you feel like you overpaid. If you lose it, again, it could be my fault. So I cannot give you a specific number. That's not what I can do. I can provide you with comparable properties or comps of what's recently sold in the area. Now, what I will also say is comps have not been great in the last 5 years due to COVID. Prices have been all over the place. I mean, it really, really depends. Sometimes you're getting a couple of really great comps, and sometimes the inventory has just been so low that there's no comps to give. So, comps are the best thing that we can do. Comparables are the best thing that we can do. And to provide you with the data and the history of that area to give you a better idea on what you should offer. So that's really kind of on the buyer side, how agents can influence price necessarily, but not really. And then on the seller side, same thing. You're providing a seller with comparable properties and telling them this is what has recently sold in your area. Here's like a range, maybe. I like to do a range, like you could go here to here. Now, there's also three different price strategies. So you can do aspirational pricing. This is for properties that like there's just no comps. This property is so unique. Maybe it's got a horse farm or a movie theater in the basement or a bowling alley, like whatever it is. It has super unique features, in which case you can go with aspirational pricing. Then you've got like the medium range where like this is where you're at, like this is totally really close to what your house could sell for. And then you can go a little bit lower. Like let's go to 495 and try to get multiple offers situation. So that's kind of the pricing strategy for sellers. Now, another thing, why are agents pushing for faster sales, or why might agents push for faster sales? This one's a hard thing to answer. It was something that I saw on a blog. And to be honest, like I don't push for faster sales. So I'm not really sure like how to answer that one, but it's a question that gets asked like frequently. It's possible that agents are pushing for faster sales, maybe because a seller is looking for a quick close. Usually that will be disclosed in the MLS. But when I'm working with a buyer, I'm really talking to their lender and their attorney to see how quickly they can close, what time frame makes the most sense. Even for my cash buyers, because you're still wanting to pull title and get a clear title and have everything in line. So even for my cash buyers, like sometimes I'll have cash buyers that are like, I'm buying it, I'll close in 3 days. And I'm like, well, hold on. Pause for a minute. Let's talk to your attorney and let's see if that is possible. So I'm always talking to everybody on our team to make sure that the closing date that we set is the most realistic closing date possible, because you don't really want to push a closing date after you've won an offer and then have to tell the seller that we've got to push it. Sorry, I know we said we were going to go with this date, but now we can't. There's just not a chance we're going to hit it. That's the worst thing. So if you can be as realistic as possible, that is the best thing for everybody. Okay, another question. Hidden costs that agents don't talk about. So, what costs can you expect when you're buying a home or selling a home? So, of course, that is your closing cost. So, for sellers, you're thinking, your attorney fees, any repairs that you might have to make, those could be considered hidden costs that you're not expecting. For buyers, again, attorney fees. And then you are also going to have to pay for your home inspection. That's a question that I get a lot. Does the buyer pay for the home inspection? Yes, the buyer is paying for the home inspection. You pay for a home inspection. If you want to do a radon test, a water test, lead paint test, you are paying for all of those items yourself out of your pocket. You're also paying for an appraisal. Your lender is going to require an appraisal for you to determine the value of the home. And that is a cost that you pay out of your pocket as well. So those are all things that are typically paid prior to closing. And then at the closing table, you're going to be paying your attorney fee. You're going to be paying any lender point fees, any lender points or fees. And then you've got just your like general closing costs, your title, transfer taxes, all of that kind of stuff. So Closing costs are typically 3 to 5% of the purchase price, and that is something that you should be expecting. So, in addition to your down payment, you are going to also be paying those closing costs. Okay, and then let's go through some insider tips for bidding wars. So, when you're in a bidding war, the first thing is you can do an escalation clause. Some people don't allow it. Some sellers don't allow it, or seller agents don't allow it because they just want you to give your absolute highest and best offer. But if you're able to do an escalation clause, I love an escalation clause because let's say the property is listed at 500, you're willing to go to 550. But I mean, who really wants to go to 550 if you don't have to go to 550, right? So you can do an escalation clause and you can say, we are going to offer $520,000, but we're willing to go $2,000 above the highest offer that you receive up to $550,000. So you're giving your highest and best offer, but if they receive, say, 5 offers and the highest offer that they receive is 535,000, then your offer, because you offered 525 up to 550, but you're willing to go $2,000 above the highest offer they received. So if they got an offer for 535,000, your offer is now 537,000. So you did not have to go to your 550 max. You only had to go a little bit above the highest offer that they received. So that's an escalation clause. I love them. If you're able to use them, I definitely suggest using them. A couple of other tips. I have had clients recently that will cover an appraisal gap. So if the property, let's say you offer 525,000, your lender has an appraisal order. The appraiser values the property at 520,000. There's a $5,000 difference. So if you as a buyer are able to cover that $5,000 difference in cash, that would be called an appraisal gap. So that's a benefit as well. If you're able to cover any of the difference in cash, that would be something that you could add to your offer. Another thing is I've had a buyer recently offered to cover some of the seller's closing costs. So they were willing to cover up to $7,000 in the seller's closing costs. So the buyer offered to cover up to $7,000 in the seller's closing costs. I hope I just said that right. So that's another thing that you could possibly do. You could offer to cover like the seller's attorney fee or something, just like little tips like that. And then the biggest thing that a lot of people will do is to increase their deposit amounts. So a higher deposit amount means that you're a really serious buyer, you're really eager about the property. Typically, when your offer gets accepted, $1,000 is due upon acceptance of the offer. So your first deposit is $1,000 due when your offer is accepted. Your second deposit is due when the purchase and sale is signed, which is typically 2 weeks after your offer is accepted. That second deposit can be anywhere from like 3 to 5% of your offer price. But if you want to make your offer stronger, you can increase that deposit. So you could do $5,000 for your first deposit and $15,000 for your second deposit, whatever it is. So increasing those deposit amounts will also strengthen your offer. So that's a couple of tips for making a stronger offer. And then my last thing, insider tips for off-market deals. So off-market deals, some agents have off-market deals, or they will know of for sale by owners, people that are selling the properties themselves. So there are different forums online for agents to get these deals or to find these deals. So I often post on a number of Facebook groups if I know that I have clients looking for something specific or we've been looking for a long time. I will post on different Facebook groups, and sometimes people will comment that they've got something coming soon. They've got something off market, and I'm always looking for sale by owner deals as well. So always looking for the perfect property for my clients, always marketing on every platform that I've got, always posting it on different social media to make sure that we are seeing every single property available, because that is super important as well. So there's a few things that to cover. If you have any questions at all, I am happy to chat with you. Anything from commission to buying, selling, any insider things that you're looking for. I'm available. I'm a happy resource, and let me know. I will be available. Have a great week.